Emilia, what are we looking at here?
That's the Hutmacher complex,
And where is it located?
about 13 miles northwest of Manning.
In what county?
Dunn.
Dunn County, North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And what can you tell us about the Hutmacher house? What is it constructed of on the outside?
Should stand up. Well, it's some kind of rocks that the neighbor picked and formed them to make this replica. But when we got married, that back bedroom was added on. Before it was just the 3 rooms.
Right here at the end with the door?
Mm-hmm. In 1950, that summer, that bedroom was added. And then years later, this entry was added.
So when you lived there, it was much smaller.
Smaller, yeah, just the 3 rooms.
Just from here
to here, right.
Okay. And how did they construct the roof for these homes?
They put I don't know, tree branches on, and then with leaves, and then they put dirt on top, and underneath they put cardboard with jar lid. They nailed that up so it didn't tear through, and then they put the other on and the ground on top.
And how well
sod, I guess.
How well did those jar lids hold up?
They held up pretty good as long as the cardboard didn't soak up.
And did that happen?
Well, if it rained long enough. If it rained long enough, it would drip sometimes.
And what would you have to do to the structure if that happened?
Well, as long as it, sometimes it would just come down. Not so much in our house, but I remember Grandpa's house. It would come down quite often. And then they'd have to do everything over, put the cardboard up and start from, and then put ground way on top.
Was that a long process to reconstruct the ceiling?
Well, I suppose a couple of days. 2 days, I would imagine.
And when they added it on, how did they bust the walls between?
They just added on the top. They didn't bust the walls. But I know after we were married, the bed was like in that northwest corner. And in the morning there was a little snowbank on top of our pillow, top of our bed, so it wasn't too airtight.
Did that come in the window?
No, through the
cracks in the wall and the ceiling?
In the ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so to patch it up, they had to do it all over again.
Well, just put more ground. I don't even know if they ever did patch it up.
And what did they use for the windows?
They had
clear glass?
Well, they had screen, and then they had, just like these are, frame. I don't know if they bought them or if they were made. I don't have no idea.
And what was this front room used for?
The freezer and the separator and the wash machine and the slop pail and the coats they hung, like in this corner there.
And what was this room?
That was the kitchen.
And then this room here?
Living room. And that was the bedroom. That's where everybody slept in.
Before they added on?
Before, till I got married, yep.
And then they added this room, which became the children's room?
Well, it was, we were all grown up already. It was bedroom. And this was the entry, still.
And what did the land look like where this house was sitting?
Well, you couldn't, I know we always wanted to plant flowers around the house, but if it rained, that washed off it. You couldn't plant nothing, It couldn't grow. It would get covered up with the sod. And
would you say that was a drawback from living in a sod home?
I would think so.
And how did they keep the interior of the house cool in the summers?
Well, it was cool in the summers because the walls were thick and so on. So it wasn't too bad in the summers.
And how did they keep it warm in the winter?
there was a heater in the middle of the living room, and they'd carry coal in and so on. But I don't think it was the warmest, really, as long as you were close to that way. Or if you forgot to shut it off, then it all went out at once, turn it down, then it was so hot, and next thing it was cold. I don't know. It wasn't like nowadays.
And what do you remember about the house the most, just looking at it now?
Well, I know, like, I'd be gone summers working, and when I'd come home, it seemed just like going into a root cellar, I remember that the most. If you were away all summer and then come home, and so.
And where did you spend most of your time when you lived here?
Kitchen or living room. The bedroom was, with the 2 beds in, and cupboard for clothes, and the dresser. Why, that room was pretty well occupied.
Now, I'll get back to the house in a minute. I'd like to talk about the other structures that we have here in front of us. First, we have
That's a granary.
This
That was
here
a
is
granary, right.
And what was that used for? What did your parents use that for?
For grain, there were oats, I think, whatever they said. Well, and then when they butchered, he had wires strung across to where they hung the sausage over winter. And that was it.
And so it was just used for meat storage and grain?
Mm-hmm. Over winter, they'd hang the stuff in, but in summer you couldn't keep it in. And it was for grain.
Okay. And then the next structure we have here is...
That was a chicken coop and the garage.
And the lean-to?
That was the chicken coop first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And were you in charge of gathering the eggs and...
Yeah. Yeah, anybody, Somebody'd gather the eggs.
And the chickens for chicken noodle soup, is this where
They were.
get them?
Or if we had geese or ducks or something, they'd be in there too, but we didn't have them too many.
And the garage portion of the building, what was
It was
that
a car.
used for?
The car was in there then.
And what kind of car was that?
Ooh. I couldn't see. It was a little higher up than the Model T, but I don't remember.
And then next to the garage...
It was the root cellar.
Root cellar.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of things did you store in there?
Well, like the milk and meats and the pickles, canned stuff, but Mom never canned too much.
Was it a big cellar?
Oh, it wasn't too big. I don't know. I couldn't see the size.
And that last little building we have in the corner?
That's the chicken coop.
It looks to be fairly large for a chicken coop. Is that normal?
I guess, because there was a roost in there and the nests and I don't know, didn't.
So did that chicken coop come after the small one connected to the garage?
Mm-hmm.
Did they use the lean-to on the garage for anything else after that?
Well, they put coal in there, but that's so full of soot and what the roof would wash down that I don't know if they're going to clean that out when they work out there.
And what is this last?
That's the barn. We milked in here. And then this was a granary too on that end. There was a wall through there.
Was that a large structure then?
Well, it seemed large then, but now it's not that big. Well, it's all collapsed. There's nothing there.
Is this where you had most of your chores to do?
Mm-hmm. Carry the water and feed the pigs and the chickens, gather the eggs.
And where were the pigs kept?
Well, there was a fence kind of west of the garage where they had a fence around there, and then they'd have a straw cover, just some boards put across and then straw on, so they were kind of under, in the shade and so on.
And And were just the milking cows kept here?
That's all that,
barn?
yeah, that's all there was, yeah.
Okay.
Just milk cows. There were no range cattle.
And what about all of the livestock? Can you kind of tell us what livestock you had at the farm?
Well, they had, they didn't have Holsteins. They were just red and white. And I don't know, probably 8 or 10. There weren't too many cows.
And what about, and you said they had pigs. What
Pigs.
about poultry?
Chickens, well, just what the clucks hatched, you know. When I was home, we never bought chickens, just what what you got from the clucks.
And were there any other kind of birds that
No.
your family would raise or
No.
nurture?
No.
What about pets? Did you have any pets growing up?
Some cats and a dog.
Do you remember any of their names?
No.
What about as far as getting fruit or anything from the area? Were there any fruit trees or berry bushes
Well,
in the
choke
area?
cherries and plums.
And what were those used in?
Well, that's where Mom would make choke cherry jelly. But you had to go pick that stuff, and we didn't have too much of it.
And what about trees? Were there trees in the area?
Not around the yard. There weren't no trees.
Where did you have to go to get wood?
Back to the trees to find some broken down stuff, you know.
How far was that?
I suppose a mile maybe or so.
And did your mother have a large garden?
I don't know. Medium garden, I suppose.
And what did she grow in it?
Tomatoes and cucumbers and some cabbage.
And where was that in relation to the house?
Well, I think every year it was put a different direction.
Was it close to the house then?
Well, right away, but later years it was further away from the house.
What about cropping? What did you do for that?
The crops?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there weren't that many fields, but Dad seeded. It was all old machinery and stuff, so
Do you remember
there
what kind of
wasn't.
machinery you did have?
No.
What about cooking? Did your mother cook 3 meals a day, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she always cooked 3 meals a day.
And you said you had to get the water. Where did you have to get that from?
Oh, I suppose a quarter mile away we carried it.
Was it a natural spring, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
came out of a spring. We carried the wash water. We carried all the water. We carried it in and carried it out, and we got our exercise.
How much water did you have to usually go collect?
Oh. Well, there was a boiler on the end of the cook stove. That we always had full. Then I suppose we always had 3-4 pailfuls sitting around, you know.
And as far as coal is concerned, where did your family get the coal they needed for the winter?
Well, that was right to the west of the house out there.
They had
Dad,
a coal mine on the farm?
Dad dug the coal there, yeah.
Were there any other?
Since I remember, anyway.
Okay. Emilia, what is that last room?
That's a bedroom that was built the summer we got married. And, well, there were 2 beds in. And a dresser. The girls slept in there then when I left.
Emilia, what end of the house are we looking at here?
That's the north end. I mean, the east end. Because it's just turned around. That's the east bedroom. And then this is the bedroom where
Hold on. We're going to keep going on that first bedroom there. When was that added to the house?
in 1950, summer 1950.
And what was special about that year?
Well, nothing.
that
We
when you
got,
left?
we got married.
And what do you remember about this new addition?
Well, there was more room. Then there was only 1 bed in the next bedroom.
What were the walls like in that first room?
Well, these walls were, I mean, they were painted and stuff. They were nice walls in that. Or you mean this one?
No, the first one.
Yeah, that one had nice walls.
And there's a door in there. Is that where it's?
That's where it
Was
went
that
to
used
the.
as an entrance, or is that just an extra exit?
It was just an extra exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll.
Well, that's
Now, what is this room, Emilia?
that was the bedroom for forever. There were 2 beds in there where us and folks slept, and there was a cupboard, one of these tall wooden cupboards that was for clothes, and then a dresser. That's all that there was room for. But in later years, why they put a heater in there too, for when the bed got out, that extra bed.
And I see there's a chimney there. What
Mhm.
did they use that?
See, it used to be the kitchen first, before, yeah, so they'd had the chimney.
And did they use the chimney for any storage?
Well, down here where that curtain is, but this, after they put that heater in, why it had to be used for the smoke to come out.
And did your mother have any special fixtures in this room that you can remember?
No, I mean the walls were kind of, you couldn't even really hang anything up there.
And this is the bedroom that you slept in when you lived at home.
This one, yeah.
Okay. And any memories from your time going to bed in there, or any stories that you can share with us about that?
Just like when it rained, and it would drip, and if it rained 3 days outside, it dripped a week inside, and that's about all.
And what is this third room here?
That was the living room.
And I see there's a table and chairs in there. Is that where they would usually have their table?
By the window.
And was this a gathering place? The gathering place?
Well, we did.
Families
Yeah. We did everything in there. But
is that when your family would have visitors over and dances and stuff? Where would they usually congregate?
in the living room.
Okay. And did it always have the green paint?
Yeah,
From what you
that I remember, right.
And do you remember anything special about this room that you'd like to share with us?
No, not really.
No. What other kind of furniture was in there when you were growing up?
Well, there was a Davenport, and then a writing desk, and then Dad had one by the table there, and a dresser was in there, and that's about all.
And you mentioned earlier that your sister Rose, was it Rose?
The
Rosemary,
oldest one. Mm-hmm.
She would sleep in the living room. Can you kind of explain why she would sleep there again?
Well, I guess nobody wanted to sleep with her because she didn't know when she'd get her spells. And then, they had a folding cupboard that made out into a bed, so she always slept in there.
Was that small?
I don't know. It looked big then, but I don't know if it was 3/4 size or a full. I don't know. But she always slept in that.
And what did your parents use to separate the rooms?
Curtains?
They have okay, so they didn't have doors. It was
No,
curtains.
curtains. There were curtains.
And how did they hang the curtains?
They had a rod, kind of a spring or something that was across the door, and the chimneys, and
And you said they didn't have electricity for quite a long time. Where would they put the kerosene lamps and
on the table.
such on the table?
Yeah, that sat on the table.
What about any other fixtures? Were there any other fixtures on the walls?
No, just some pictures, and I think a clock was hanging in the living room, but that was about it. Calendar.
And this is obviously the kitchen.
Right.
Can you tell us about it for just a few minutes?
Well, the table and the chairs were over there by the window, and the stove was in this corner. The cupboard was over here. And before that entry was, why there was the slop pail and everything, and the separator to the right behind the door there. Then when they put the entry on, well, then that stuff got put out there. And a fridge, they finally got a fridge that was put behind the door then, and then the deep freeze and that was put in the entry.
And there's obviously a chimney in this room as well, and it's curtained off. Why is it curtained? Why is it?
There are shelves in there,
And what was it used for?
kettles, and that's what where Mom had her kettles in. And same with this one. This was the kitchen that was used for the same thing.
And did she have any rugs on the floor in there?
A couple of scatter rugs, you know,
And,
not too many.
how would the family usually sit at the dinner table? Is there seating arrangements?
There, it was for all of us. We all had room around the table.
Were there any pictures on the walls?
No, not, I think the Last Supper was about the only picture that was up there.
And you mentioned before that they used the jar lids to keep the ceiling up.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Can you explain that process to us while we're looking at the house? How they'd keep the ceiling up?
Well, they'd put a piece of cardboard up there and just some held and some nailed till it was secure, you know. And I didn't do too much. I wasn't around for too much of that.
Of the construction portion of the houses?
Right.
What about the jar lids? Did they have to get extra just because they were putting them on the ceiling?
Well, no, I think there were used lids, you know, from canning. I don't think they bought extra.
And was the upkeep difficult for that?
No, not unless it soaked through from the rain. You know, that it would come down, but otherwise or if, what did they have those, called those sticks, if one of them would break, you know, then some of it would kind of hang down that they'd have to redo.
Do you remember that happening when you were younger?
Once or twice, and even when we were married, why, they'd have to replace a couple of them, I remember.
And how often would they have to do upkeep, say, for the walls or things like that we were looking at now in the kitchen?
Well, I'm sure they waited a few years till it was painted, and like the roof you were supposed to put sod on too, and I think the last years it wasn't done every year no more either.
Is it easy for a house like that to fall into disrepair?
Yeah, if it isn't taken care of.
And what are your fondest memories of growing up here?
I don't know. It was just a way of living we had to. I don't think there was anything
When you moved away and you were living on your own, was there anything you missed about living here?
No.
Nothing that you missed at all?
No, not really.
Okay. And how long did your parents live in this house?
Well, they both passed away. Mom did in 1969, and Dad was 5 years later, and they were living in there. And I think my brother, he moved out in 1982, I think. So